Okay, so good morning everyone. Today we're gonna be discussing IV computations. Now, very similar to our drug computations. Now, our IV computation um, has a few different steps. Okay, namely among which the first step that you should take is to, as you if you remember, no, step zero, no, step zero is to what we call read the question. Okay, read the question. This will allow us to know what we are looking for, and I want you to read the question properly. Okay, as I mentioned before, drug computation and IV computation is not really a math problem. It's more so an English comprehension problem, because you need to understand the question first before you can tackle the question. No? Step 1 is then you will input the variables. Okay? Input the variables. No? So there's a lot of variables here, and we need to follow the formula. Don't worry, I will give you the formula later. But basically, nga na siya. Step 3 or step 2 is convert. No? Convert. I know, bali na class, bali. It's, sorry, it's bali. No? It's convert the necessary units. Okay? Input variables is step 2. And then step number 3 is solve. Okay? So it's that easy, no? So those are the steps that we need to take when it comes to IV computation. Now, what do we need to compute? There's a lot, no? So we can compute for flow rate. Now, when we're talking about flow rate, this is the speed of the infusion. Speed of the infusion. Okay? Speed of the infusion. Now, there are two common what we call results. No, we can either solve for what we call milliliters per hour, or we can solve for what we call our drops per minute. Okay, GTTS means drops. Okay, GTTS is equals to drops, no? Drops per minute. Another thing that we can solve for is the time elapsed and the time needed. So usually the result here is the number of hours. Number of hours needed for infusion, or number of hours passed. Hours passed. Ang niagi na time. How much time has already passed, no? In our infusion rate. Don't worry, we will show the formulas later. And then the volume, no? So we can say if this will solve for the remaining amount of fluid in the bag. Listen, ha? Or it will also solve for the infused amount into body. Now, don't worry, class, no, because most of the time when we're talking about IV fluids, the unit that we will use for volume is in ml. Okay, in ml gina siya, class, no? Sometimes we will use liters, but basically ml and liters, no, they're just easily convertible, no? So let's begin, okay? Now first, no, let's discuss the common parts of the IV tubing. Now, this one here, class, no? Listen to me. This one here is what we call the drip chamber. Okay? Drip chamber. Sige lang, class, you will learn about this, no, during your demonstration on IV priming, but basically this is the drip chamber, no? This is where, no, fluid will accumulate before it is being inserted into what we call our site, no, or our route, the intravenous vein, di ba? So wala siya, that is the drip chamber. Here, this one here, this is our IV bag, di ba? IV bag. And this one here is the regulator. The regulator, class, is responsible for regulating IV flow. Regulating IV flow. Okay? Now let's talk about the drip chamber first, because the drip chamber will change, no? There's two differences to that, no? Now, first one class is the macro drip. Okay? Now, the macro drip is a drip chamber that does not have a needle. Okay? Does not have a needle. Okay? So, typically, class, the drop factor, okay, the drop factor is around 10 to 20 drops per ml. The reason why the drop factor is what we call very low, 10 to 20 drops per ml, is because no, it requires very few drops to reach 1 ml. Because in macro drip, manggod class, since there is no needle, the drops are very large, no? Large droplets, okay? And because of that, we only need 10 to 20 drops in order to achieve 1 ml. No? So keep that in mind. The drop factor for the macro drip is 10 to 20 drops per ml. So usually, class, ato na lang na siya average. We usually average that. And normally, when we are talking about macro drip, then it is around 15 drops per ml. Okay? 15 drops per ml. Lagyan mo na malaking star plus para hindi mo makalimutan. Okay? While we have, class, here our micro drip. The micro drip, class, is a drip chamber, no, with a needle. With a needle. Okay? As you can see, class, so if you look at it here, there's a very small needle. This one, class, this is not a needle. This is just an extension of the tubing. Okay? While here, class, there is a small needle. And the purpose of that small needle is to make the droplets smaller. Okay? Smaller droplets. Now, usually, class, no, we use micro drip, no, if the patient cannot tolerate large movements of fluid. Like, for example, if they are a newborn, or if they are a child, or if they have very fragile veins, like an elderly patient, no? So, typically, class, in order for us to reach 1 ml in a micro drip, we need to use, or we need to drop, no, 60 drops per ml. 60 drops, no? So, that is our drop factor for micro drip. Okay? So, smaller droplets. If you look at this, class, no? If you look at this drip chamber, saan man siya, class? Is it macro or micro drip? This is macro drip because as you can see, there is no needle. There's no needle. Now, keep that in mind, ha? While we are discussing this, no? So, let's talk about flow rate by milliliters first. If the question is asking flow rate and you are given units of ml, then you need to write the answers down in ml per hour. Okay? If the question is asking for flow rate, how fast the infusion is, or how fast, how rapidly the infusion will be infused, no? Then if they're using ml, then you're gonna use, no, this formula. Ml of the solution over the total number of hours is equals to ml per hour. So let's however, if the question is given in minutes, then you just have to multiply it by 60. So ml of the solution divided by the number of minutes involved times 60, which will give you the same ml per hour. So let's put that into practice, class, no? 1000 ml of PNSS to infuse over 7 hours. What would be the flow rate if that is the question? Okay, nga na ang question, na what is the flow rate? Remember, that is step number 0. Read the question. What is the flow rate? So we are looking for the speed. No, we are looking for the speed. No? Now, next. Diba, what is the next? Convert. There's no need to convert. No? So we have to find the variables first. Since we are using ml, then we are gonna use this formula. Okay, we are gonna use this formula. So 1000 ml divided by how many hours? 7 hours. Okay? So what's the answer for that, class? No? What's the answer for that? 1000 ml divided by 7 hours. Okay, 1000 divided by 7 hours. It is 142.8 or 143 ml per hour. And that is your final answer. Diba? That's how easy it is, no? In every hour, 143 ml will be infused. Diba? That's how we measure speed. Diba? That's how we measure speed, no? Volume over time. Volume over time. Diba? Sige, let's move on to another example. Okay? 250 ml of PNSS to infuse over 15 minutes. What would be the flow rate? So, karon class, 15 minutes na class. No, so we are not gonna use this solution. We are gonna use this one because we are using minutes. No, so 250 over 15. So 250 divided by 15 is equals to 16.66 or 17. Kuwang pa, we need to multiply it by 60. So 17 times 60 is 17 times 60 is 1020 ml per hour. Okay? And that is the correct answer. That is the correct answer. No? No. Is that the correct answer? Oh, really pa. The reason why I am telling you that it's not the correct answer yet is because, as I mentioned before in our rules of administration, you do not round off until you reach, no? Until you reach the final answer. So, dili pa mo round off to 17. So, 16.6. Again, 16.66 times 60. Diyan na ka mo multiply class times 60. No? Is 999.6 or 1,000 ml per hour. Diba? And that is the final answer. That is the final answer. Again, malaking star, no? And if you extrapolate that class, that's very simple. In 1 hour, naatay 4 kabuok 15-minute increments. 4 15-minute increments. Every 15 minutes, muhatag siya og it will infuse 250 ml. So, 250 times 4 is equals to 1,000 ml in 1 hour. Diba? Very simple. So, nga na siya kapaspas. Now, what if something like this, no? 10 units of heparin infused in 500 ml PNSS to infuse over 12 hours. What is the flow rate? Class, if you're reading this question, no, what is the flow rate? You know what you're looking for, diba? You're looking for ml per hour, no? ml per hour. The question here is this. How would you know? No, how would you know which variables to use? Now, as I mentioned before, we are gonna use the ml, no? So, this 10 units of heparin class, this is dissolved in the 500 ml of PNSS. Iyan ang gi-dissolve sa 500 ml PNSS. So, what we are gonna be using here is 500 ml. Do not put 510. Do not put 500 times 10. No, it's 500 ml only. That is our first variable. Over 12 hours. Okay? Over 12 hours. 500 divided by 12 is equals to 41. No? 41.66 or 42 ml per hour. That is now your final answer, class. Diba? It's very easy, no? Very easy to compute, no? Especially with a calculator that I am allowing you to bring during the midterm exam. Although, here's the thing you need to remember, ha? I will not allow you to there is no one. I will not allow you to bring the formula. I will not give the formula in the exam as well, so you really need to memorize the formula. The reason why I'm asking you to memorize the formula is because this will be this will be what we call double discussed. I-discuss man po balik ko when you have your IV priming. Yes, IV priming. Okay, so next is flow rate by drops per minute. Now, here's the thing, Here's the thing you need to remember about this, no? Flow rate by drops per minute is what we usually use to calibrate, no? To calibrate in a hospital setting. What I mean by that is this, no? Balik ta diri. Class, okay? I want you to look properly, ha? I want you to look properly. Okay? When we say drops per minute, class, we are literally counting how many drops occur in the drip chamber per minute. Okay? We are counting how many drops occur in the drip chamber per minute. Okay? So, it's very adjustable and you can adjust it. That's what you see, no? When nurses go up to the IV bag and they adjust it, no? If you increase it up, if you increase the regulator up, it slows down, my God, slows down IV flow. Okay? While if you pull it back down, it speeds up. Okay? Speeds up. So let's say for example, cause here in the middle, for example, here in the middle, here in the middle, it is 30 drops per minute. Possibly, if you put it up, class, it might go to 10 drops per minute. No? If you open it up, class, then it might reach 120 drops per minute. No? And your job as a nurse is to regulate this one to follow your formula, which is how many drops per minute. Okay? And you really need to count, no? You really need to count how many drops are occurring per minute. Okay? Sige na siya, class. Sige, let's continue. No, you will learn more about that, no, in your IV priming, but this is just the theoretical formulation. No? Now, here's the question, no? If drop factor is included, way it be, they might say something like micro drip. Okay, they might say micro drip or macro drip. Okay, macro drip. Then it is asking for flow rate in GTTS per minute. And therefore, we will use this solution. ml of the solution divided by the total number of minutes times the drop factor. Okay? So let's try to answer it, no? 1000 ml of D5LR to infuse at 50 ml per hour. Microdrip is used. What is the number of drops per minute? Okay? What is the number of drops per minute? Now, what is the first thing I told you? Number one, read the question. What is the number of drops per minute? So, we are gonna use this formula since it's looking for drops per minute, diba? The next one, class, is to convert the units. There's no need to convert the units since the units are already there. They're already compatible with each other. The next one is to input your variable. So the ml of the solution is 1000. We already know that. 1000 ml. Now, here is the question, class. It didn't say there the total number of minutes. Ang gibutang na diri, class, is 50 ml per hour. So what do we do? No? We get the number of hours first. Now remember, I already know how many or how much fluid is to be infused, 1000 ml, and I know how fast it will be infused, no? So I will divide that. So 1000 ml divided by 50 ml per hour. Okay, I'm gonna remove the ml. So 1000 divided by 50 is 1000 divided by 50 is 20, no? So that is 20 hours. That is my total, what we call number of time. That is a total time required to what we call infuse this IV fluid. However, it's not minutes yet. So we need to multiply it by 60. Multiply it by 60, which is 20 times 60 is 1,200 minutes. Times, what is the drop factor, class? Microdrip. So we are gonna use the microdrip, which is, we'll go to microdrip, 60 drops per minute. Okay, 60 drops per minute. Ayan, drops per minute, no? Sige, let's compute, no? So 1,000 divided by 1,200 is 0. Ito sa i-resolve. Ito lang i-move. Let's move it, no? Is equals to 0.833 Do not class. Do not what we call, do not round it off yet. Ayaw say round off, ha. So after we get, after computing this, we get 0.833. We now multiply it by 60, which will give us 50. Okay, wait 50. Now kung na siya class mo, na siya atong drops per minute. Okay, 50 drops per minute. And then you have to adjust it in your IV tubing. Adjust it now in your IV tubing. Okay, 50 drops per minute. Ayan. Okay. Sige, let's continue. GTTS per ml din ay mong drop factor. And then ml per minute. Wait, so you have to remove the ml. The ml. So what you are left with is drops of minutes. So drops per minute. Okay, another is this one, metronidazole 100 ml to infuse over 45 minutes. The tubing you have has a drop factor of 10 drops per ml. So ato ni siya compute, First is read the question. The question is the same as this one, class. Wala na ko mabutang. What is the drops per minute? Okay, what is the drops per minute? Sometimes mangud class, they won't put a question on it. They will just put the formulation there, and they will expect you to understand what they are looking for, So since you have your variables, then you have to input your variables na. You don't need to compute it anymore. So 100 ml divided by 45 minutes, okay, times 60. Ato sa ni move ang times 60, ha. We have to compute for the 100 times divided by 45 minutes first. So 100 divided by 45 minutes is 2.22. Okay, 2.22 ml per minute. Okay, times sa malatong drop factor, class. What's our drop factor? Times our drop factor, which is 10 drops per ml. Okay, now let's remove the ml, We are left with drops per minute, drops per minute. So 2.22 times 10 is 22.2 or 22 drops per minute. Okay, and you really have to you really have to set 22 drops per minute. So imo gina ma-check dito, class, but that's the formula, Ang important lagi na part that you need to remember is the drop factor. Okay, in relation specifically to the formula. Next is the time elapsed or time needed. This computes how many hours have elapsed with respect to the current volume. That's what I want you to learn, respect to the current volume. Now, every time you go to your patient class, you must monitor current volume. Okay? And flow rate, Sige. So, time or the number of time elapsed or passed, is just a measure of volume over the rate. Okay? Volume over the rate. So, we will use this formula. I want you to listen. Okay? At 8:30 in the morning, the PNSS 1 liter is at 800 ml. So, kumbaga, if I'm gonna draw the IV bag here, this is a 1 liter IV bag. Okay, 1 liter na siya. At 8:30 in the morning, 0830, it was at 800 ml. Okay? The current flow rate is 50 ml per hour. When will the IV bag be depleted? When will the IV bag be depleted? So as far as I know, at 8:30, pamina mo nakuha at 8:30 ml. O 8:30 ml. O 8:30 in the morning, it was 800 ml, It is flowing at a rate of 50 ml per hour. So ako compute, class, Let's compute. The volume is 800 ml over the rate, which is 50 ml per hour. Let's eliminate the ml. 50 or 80 to 800. divided by 800 divided by 50 is 16, no? What's the remaining unit? Hours. 16 hours. Is that the final answer? No, because ang gipangutana is when will the IV bag be depleted? So ang atong buhaton class is, as I've mentioned before, relative to this is the time elapsed mangud kasi pila na ka oras ang nidagan, no? So what we need to do is we need to use the clock na. At 8:30 in the morning, ato lang military time at 08:30, okay? It was at 800 ml, okay? If we want to finish this bag, we will need to add 16 hours. So mo add tag 16 hours. So how do we add 16 hours? 8:30 in the evening is so mo add ta na class og 1600 kana 1600, no? So 0 3 8 plus 6 pila man? 8 plus 6 is this is 4, di ba? 14, no? But the thing is, you cannot add 14, no, because it's gonna go back to 0. So this is not a good formula to use. What I would recommend for you class is this. Manumanuhan ninyo gihap. You manually kanang count the number of hours. So let's say for example 16 8:30 9:30 10:30 11:30 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 and then ang 16 kay 24. But since there is no 24 in military time, it's gonna go back to 0 0 3 0. Or if ato pa na 12-hour time, 12:30 the following day. Okay? Mao na siya class. This is now our what we call our answer. 12:30 the following day. Because 8:30 in the morning, gipun-an ra nato, we are just adding 16 hours. And then 16 hours later, naubos na ang bag, that is 12:30 in the morning. 12:30 in the following morning, the following day, no? Specifically, no, 00:30, no? So wala siya 12:30 in the morning. 12:30. Okay? So pareha rin silang doon, these are both correct. Sige, another, no? At 5:30, the bag is at 800 ml. The doctor requests the bag to be removed once it reaches 500 ml. The current flow rate is 25 ml per hour. When should the bag be removed? That's the question. When should the bag be removed? So it's a question of time, no? Time gyapon, di ba? When, no? So ato na drawing kon class. If this is your IV bag, okay, at around 5:30 in the morning, it is around 800 ml. Okay? Ang doktor, he wants us to stop the bag. At 500 ml. Gusto siya maundang atong bag at 500 ml. But we do not know what time it takes, no? So we need to measure the time it takes in order for the bag to go from 800 ml to 500 ml. Okay? So, unsa ako man na, class? Okay? First is, since we do not know what time it will take, but we know how much volume we need to remove, no? By subtracting 800 minus 500 is what? 300 ml. It means to say na we need to remove, pamina muna ko, we need to remove or we need to infuse 300 ml before it reaches 500 ml. Do you understand? Before it reaches 500 ml. Now, once we have that 300 ml class, that is now our volume. So, we can now compute. Okay? Our volume is 300 ml over the rate which is 25 ml per hour. Okay? Now, 300 divided by 25 is what? 300 divided by 25 is 12 hours, no? 12 hours. It takes 12 hours, no? Since it is 12 hours, no? Is that the final answer? No. Because the question is, when should the bag be removed? Diba? So, we started out at 5:30. In order to infuse 300 ml, paminaw na ko, in order to infuse 300 ml, we need to take 12 hours. So basically, the answer is 12 hours is 0530 plus 12 hours, which is 1730. Okay, I will resume. 1730. And that is now my final answer. 17:30 or 5 p.m. in the afternoon. Di ba? Ako'y Bisaya ha. If naghatag ko IV fluids, pag alas 5:30 sa buntag, at 5:30 in the morning, ang IV bag, kinasa 800 ml. Man, ang doktor, naingon ang doktor nako nga pag abot og 500 ml na, dong tangtanga na. Pag abot og 500 ml, tangtanga na. Okay? So, pasabot na, kinahanglan ako, panaugon, ang 800 ml, ako i-infuse ang 800 ml, hantod mo abot siya 500 ml. Okay? And I know that the flow rate is 25 ml per hour. So, the gap between 800 ml and 500 ml is equals to 300 ml. So, I am gonna compute, no? 300 ml divided by 25 ml per hour, which is equals to 12 hours. Okay? So, I know, kibaw ko, na kinahanglan kog 12 ka oras gikan sa 800 ml padung sa 500 ml. Kinahanglan kog 12 hours for this to go from 800 to 500 ml. So I will be done exactly at 17:30 or 12 hours later. 12 hours later. Nga na, no? It takes a lot of analysis, class, but really it's very, very simple, class, no? You just need to know the formula, and then you have to know, no? You have to understand what we call the question itself. Okay? Next is the volume. This will compute the volume of IV fluid infused with respect to time and flow rate. So volume is just the number of hours times ml per hour. Hours times ml per hour. Now, here's a sample, class. Okay? D5 water has been running for 4 hours and 30 minutes at a flow rate of 70 ml per hour. Okay? How much flow rate has been infused in the body? How much fluid has been infused in the body? So, I know the number of hours. I know the flow rate. There's the flow rate is 70 ml per hour. So, bali, nga niyo na ako pag-answer, class. Okay? The number of hours is 4.5 because you cannot put 4.30. 4.5 because 30 minutes is 1/2 of 1 hour. Okay? 4.5 times 70 ml per hour. Okay? Now, 4.5 times 70 ml is equals to 315. You remove the hours and you are left with ml. That is the volume infused in the body for 4 hours. Diba? Muna siya ang amount of fluid that has been infused. No, it's very simple, no? It's very simple formulations. Okay, next and lastly, no, D5 water has been running starting at 0330 or 3:30 a.m. It has been infusing until this moment 10:30. Okay? At an infusion rate of 50 ml per hour. So this is relative to time naman, no? Right now, we do not know how many number of hours. We know the flow rate. The flow rate is 50 ml per hour. Okay? But we don't know the time yet. So 0.330 is 3:30 a.m. while 10:30 is 10:30. Okay, a.m. How many hours is the gap, class? How many hours the gap? It's 7 hours. So, 7 hours, no? Atong gap. It has been running for 7 hours, starting at 3:30 and until this moment, 10:30. Okay? So, 7 hours times 50 ml. So, 7 times 50. 7 times 50 is 350. We are gonna remove the hours. We are left with ml. Okay? So that is your final answer. It's very easy, very simple. The thing I want you to remember now here, class, is this, okay? This is the last slide, no? Don't go off yet. Ay sa maghawa, ha? The thing I want you to know is this. These are very simple concepts, class. Okay, these are very simple concepts. The math here is very simple. Ang problema gina ni class, the main problem here is reading comprehension. I want to emphasize that, okay? And since you have access to the internet, no, here's what I want you to do. If you're having trouble understanding this formulation, then we will discuss it on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, depending on when your schedule is. No, we have to story agbalik. But basically, what I want you to learn is this. If you are confident, or if you want to learn more, if you want to practice, no, I highly suggest that you practice online. You look for questions that are pertaining to IV computation, and you try to solve them, no? First without the formula, or first with the formula in hand, and after that, tangtangan ang formula. You try to memorize the formula na, no? I'm emphasizing this because I put a lot of questions about IV computation sa inyong midterm exam. There are 15, if I remember correctly. There are 15. There are 5 there. Na 5 ka buok dito, class. That's very hard. I would say it's very hard. It's very analytical like this. Mura siya gingani ba? Very analytical like this. No? Like this, very analytical. But there are some that are very easy. Ano mga ingani lang, class, no? Very easy. Like the drop factor lang, no? So I want you to practice, no, ahead of time. I will send you a resource later which you can use to practice the IV drops.